Good morning. It is Wednesday, September 10th. I'm hanging out with my good friend Steve Greenfield. This is Kyle Mountseer, and we're on the Automotive State of the Union talking about Canada third shifts, Korea trade deals, and the NCM client and friends update. That was good. That was good. I could barely hear the music. It's one of those things where when you're in, like, I got cars whizzing past me. It's what you get, you know. So.
And no one's honking you, trying to get you off the road.
I was actually a little bit worried. I'm outside this big tower, and I was like, someone's gonna come by and just grab my backpack and run, but it hasn't happened. So
security will usher you, sir, you can't be here right now.
You can't be here right now. Yeah. None of this video stuff. That's absolutely right. Hey, before we get into it, we've got an ASOTU Edge quick shot webinar, 30 minutes today with V Auto about mining your misses and making trade deals to win more inventory. That's today at 2 p.m. Eastern. You're going to want to check it out. Also, if you haven't been to your favorite podcast platform, search for NAMAD sessions and listen to some of those short, quick interviews with some of the people that were at NAMAD. Really insightful conversations. You're going to want to check out that it's NAMAD, NAMAD sessions. So get into it. Let's get into it. Steve, we're rocking and rolling. I'm out on the street. You're back at your house. We'll talk about where we both were at in just a second. But it's a good day for Canadian auto workers as both Stellantis and General Motors announced plans to extend or reinstate third shifts at major plants, signaling some stronger than expected demand and effective union pressure. First, with Stellantis, their Windsor Assembly Plant will return to a 3-shift schedule starting in Q1 2026. So that's a big difference in kind of, especially for Stellantis with high inventory. It follows a commitment made in 2023 with the Unifor negotiations and trying to increase demand for Chrysler minivans and Dodge Chargers. Unifor Local 444 President James Stewart called it an encouraging step for members and the community. Meanwhile, over at GM, their Oshawa plant will retain its third shift, so they're keeping that open, even though they had been expected to close it now through January 30th, delaying previously announced layoffs. Obviously, they are responding because of some short-term needs for light-duty pickups. And the president, Lena Payne of Unifor, is just seeing all these shift extensions as a sign of life for a critical industry for them. So kind of cool to see some U.S. manufacturers keeping the lights on a little bit longer.
Well, with all due respect, on behalf of all Canadians, I got to correct you. So it's Oshawa, not Oshawa.
Oh,
it's okay. You put a little Japanese bent on it, which we would appreciate it, but it's Oshawa. So there you go. But yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, I think this is a good sign. You know, Stellantis has gone back to building V8s and Hemis and such, and hopefully this is a good signal that there's going to be a lot of demand for these larger pickup trucks and these muscle cars with big V8s. And it's great for Canada and great for, you know, production up there, and great for the folks up there who are employed in the industry.
Yeah. Speaking of international relations.
Segue.
There we go. We almost missed it. A $350 billion investment deal between the U.S. and South Korea is currently under pressure following a high-profile ICE raid and growing concerns about how the fund will be structured, potentially jeopardizing the future incentives for Korean automakers. The ICE raid at a Hyundai-linked battery plant in Georgia sparked outrage in South Korea, prompting emergency diplomatic talks. So things happening in your home state. The $350 billion fund, originally pitched to mirror a U.S.-Japan deal, is now in dispute over whether it includes direct investments or just loan guarantees. South Korea is insisting it needs different terms due to the greater impact such capital would have on its economy. Obviously, a key auto trade component, lower tariffs on Korean-made vehicles, still pending and may be delayed if some of these talks break down. Wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think this ICE raid last week was bad for both sides, right? Optically,
all around.
Not good for Hyundai, not good for Korea, and not so good for us. I mean, Korea just increased the amount of capital spend they had committed to the U.S. And just literally right after that, we had this raid. So not great, but it sends a message, I guess. You know, the U.S. isn't screwing around. You know, with other countries' nationals coming in. Not to single out Korea at all, but I can imagine right now there's a lot of strain. Hopefully, that's all blows over. But and both sides will see the bigger picture here, the long term. But I got to imagine right now, I mean, it's creating a lot of pressure in the short term.
Yeah, it's just a lot of pressure and it's undue. And this is one of those things where as auto, we have to pay attention to this because this definitely has some impact on like, over the next 2-3 years, what may or may not happen, especially, the tariff conversation still hanging in the balance. It sucks that it's kind of aligned with some other, political, cultural narratives. But definitely some pressure just to watch out for, especially for those Hyundai dealers that are looking at Georgia as really a celebration of what they've been able to accomplish. So,
yeah, totally agree.
Well, speaking of things that are here to celebrate.
Segue.
For me, the Kane event is always a go-to, and now that it's been renamed to the NCM event after that acquisition last year, this is the first year that the NCM event, Clients and Friends, has been running, and I'm here on day, I guess, 2.5. You were actually here for the first half day, doing the Shark Tank pitch tank for dealers. I'd love to get a little insight into. Actually, I'm missing right now. The final is happening right now. I believe upstairs. So no. I'll try and get the winner back earlier. But what were you seeing? What were some of the cool things that came out of that on Monday?
Well, first I'll say, like, David Kane, Nathan and I were talking about this in the pre-show, is the nicest guy in automotive. I mean,
period.
If you haven't met David, you probably know of David, but just an incredible human being. And like, when David texts you and says, "Hey, Steve, are you available on this date?" You're like, yes. The answer is yes by default. So when he asked me to come out, I was very honored. I got a chance to MC the pitch tank, and we had 5 companies, all of whom did an outstanding job. And it was just really fun. We had about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We had about 70 people in the room. The audience was very, very engaged, and we got them really energized. We took questions afterwards, and it felt by the end like a real Shark Tank. We had like a lot of dynamic folks, in the audience that were relentless with their questions. But no, it was really fun. A great way to kick off David's conference. I was honored to be there, and I just kudos to all the companies. They had really presented and fine-tuned their presentations. And I think for the audience, it was a really, really hard decision when it came down to at the end.
Yeah, I have, we do a pitch tank at SoduCon. There are other, of these events doing similar. You've done Navicon, at Used Car Week a lot. I love this thesis of constantly being kind of like on the toes, whether it's, I think I saw Dealer that they've been around for a while, and they're thinking, how do we pitch net new ideas? And then you got all these net new companies coming into the ecosystem saying, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's how I'm serving. It's really energizing as a cadence, I think, for our industry. And I don't mind that everybody does a pitch tank. I think it should be proliferated across the industry, because I think it's good for us to have that type of innovative energy.
Yeah, I mean, we owe it to the entrepreneurs out there to get them as much exposure as possible. Sure. And the great thing about David's conference is you got a bunch of dealers in the audience, so they're taking notes about solutions that they might buy. And then you've got literally billion-dollar companies in the audience too, and you can see them. They're taking notes as well and connecting with entrepreneurs, which could be a sales partner for them, or ultimately an investment or an acquisition in the end. So kudos to David, and I agree with you. The more of this we can do, kind of paying it forward to the benefit of the entrepreneurs. Dealers, we've got a bunch of dealers across our funds now. They love access to early stage companies that they wouldn't otherwise see. So I think it's very symbiotic, and I think it's a total win-win. So the more of this we can do, to your point, the better.
So I'll give you a little insight, and I think because you're so close to so much of the tech in the industry, one of the threads of conversation that I caught yesterday was a different perspective on elimination of waste, whether it be waste of time or waste of dollars, because of like not understanding the data initially, and then recapping that to make sure that you have the data. Some things that people are doing with urban science to leverage that to release their teams from worrying about people that have already bought elsewhere, or things people are doing with OTT and streaming to validate that there are real users actually watching their things, so that when they see that CPM, they're actually getting impressions on brand from real eyes and not just bot users or, or triggered users, leveraging blockchain to do that. And I think that, a lot of times we look at expense waste, from do I have the right paper towels or the right paper towel vendor? But there's expense waste and time waste You talk a lot about how we can leverage AI tools or AI agents within the industry to recover a lot of that wasted time, but also waste in ad spend is starting to get recovered because of the tracking capacity of some of these marketing companies. I thought it was an interesting kind of trend that I heard yesterday at the event.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest ahas I have at the end of my presentations to dealers are typically the two slides you've kind of referenced. One, for 50 years, we've kind of been at this like 10 cars sold per salesperson per month. And over 50 years, a lot has changed. We've had the internet, we've had all these technology solutions, et cetera. But why have we not got more productivity per salesperson on average? And then the other, I show that slide, and I show a SodaCon, which is, from the beginning of the internet, you go back to 1997, from NADA's data, the advertising cost per car sold was $300. We're up to $700. You would have thought with the internet and all these channels and optimization, and it should be we're finding efficiencies, but we're going the wrong way with all of this. So yeah, I'm hopeful that whether it's AI or just best practices and better data mining, et cetera, that we should be able to help dealers figure out ways to drive down costs and drive up efficiency, i.e. productivity per person, per employee, however you want to measure that, whether it's revenue, whether it's profit per employee, throughput, activities. So yeah, I think we're on the cusp of like AI really unlocking a lot of this stuff. But it's very interesting when you look at some of these metrics that are just really, really hard to move, these operational metrics.
Yep. Yeah. Very cool. Well, hey, Steve, thanks for joining me. It was it's cool that we were crossing paths in the wind. Hey, go out and serve someone today. Thanks for listening to this show. We really appreciate that you show up here with us every single day. And take care of someone today. Sell some cars, service some, and love on the industry.